Hey friends, and welcome back to more Reddit stories about entitled people, insane people, and all that kind of stuff. So make sure to subscribe if you haven't yet for more Reddit content, and we're getting right into today's stories. Bad service and default 20% tip leads to waitress chasing me out of the restaurant. My girlfriend and I decided to go to a local restaurant we had never been to before. We arrive, park near the door, and are greeted as normal. The restaurant is mostly empty and we get seated all the way in a side area. We don't get approached with a menu or even offered a drink for 30 minutes. We thought they might have forgotten about us. Have you ever played the just 5 more minutes game? No apology for the slow service, but they do approach us finally and we order everything at once. Same story again. No drinks, no food, and no one checking on us for at least another half hour. We finally do get to eat and the food is average for how expensive it is. Whatever, we're just hungry at that point and don't care very much. Finally, while we're still eating, they don't ask if everything is okay, but do immediately drop off the check without a word. Maybe because they know we were waiting a long time already, maybe to rush us out. But that's when my girlfriend notices they added a 20% gratuity on top of the post-tax total, with a line to add even more. We are just a party of 2, ordered maybe $75 worth of food. Why is there an automatic gratuity being added? Now, I'm a little bit more on the shy side. I was upset with the service, food, seating, atmosphere, and a little bit shocked that they would have the audacity to automatically add a top-scale tip after the way they treated us, but I wanted to go home and I would have normally just paid that. My girlfriend, however, was having none of it. She pointed out how ridiculous it was for them to add that on top, all things considered, and that we should be allowed to tip accordingly in general. Also want to add I normally tip 20% regardless of the service, but that's my choice. It said on the receipt that you can ask them to remove that charge, maybe in their eyes to tip cash instead. So we asked them to remove the charge, which caused a big fuss out of the waitress. She was accusing us of not liking the food but eating still. True, though we never complained about it or asked for money off, being cheap and that the charge wasn't a big deal, and that no one ever complains about it. She comes back with our new bill and throws it on the table. At that point, I'm no longer shy. I just wanted a peaceful and relaxing date night after both working all day, and now I'm nothing but stressed and angry. We tip what the lady truly deserved and leave. We start walking out of the restaurant and in the parking lot I hear yelling, getting louder and louder. This lady really followed us out to my car. She yelled at us, screaming how we were cheap and why would we leave her $0. She says in New York City it's normal to have default tips. I told her, lady, this isn't New York City. We were over 100 miles away from there. And that after the way she treated us and now following me to my car to yell, she's lucky I don't call the police. She yells back never to come back or they would cause a problem for us. I yelled back she couldn't pay me to return. That was the end of it, or so I thought, until I left them a Google review that did not include these details but was constructive and explained how I was disappointed. Figured maybe I would be doing the business owner a favor to know how the employees are acting. Well, the business replied back, denying everything, so I updated my review with all these details and they ended up deleting their reply. My review still sits at the top of their business page over a year later. How to use a strict teachers to strike rule to ace a test. Some years ago, by which I mean 2 or so decades roughly, my dad was at a several-day course to earn some additional qualifications for his job. On the final day, there was going to be a multiple-choice test to actually pass the seminar. On test day, everyone got settled into place, and the teacher announced that he would not go easy on cheaters. You had 1 strike to be caught trying to copy off of someone else or use a cheat sheet, but if you were caught a second time, you would immediately be thrown out and your score made invalid. Now, this teacher was very old-school strict and treating grown working people like unruly schoolchildren, and my dad does not like that very much. So my dad proceeds to take the test, and it goes pretty well. When he's through with the questions, there is just 1 left where he's not sure he's got it right. And he has a free strike after all, so my dad yells out into the class, just calls out, "What's the answer to question 14? Some complete bro elsewhere in the room yells the answer back. My dad fills in the sheet, gets up, walks to the teacher's desk, presumably tries to not trip on the teacher's jaw as it lies on the floor, hands in his test, and leaves the room. To the teacher's credit, he approached my dad afterwards with some begrudging respect. I don't know if he changed his policy afterwards or the tone in which he conveyed it. The man that caused the school lockdown. I work at a Head Start. This morning during drop-off, a man in his 60s had 2 off-leash dogs in the school parking lot, about 3 feet from where parents drop kids off in their classrooms. These dogs were lunging at and barking in the toddlers' faces. The kids were screaming and crying. The mom outside was yelling at him to get his dogs away. He was refusing, saying she was out of line and overreacting. The dad of the children comes over and again asks him to get his dogs and leave. The man again refuses. The dad of the children then kicks one of the dogs to keep it away from his children. As a dog lover, I would have done the same. The man then said he was going to shoot the parents, all while they have their children with them. The man starts reaching into his pocket, and the father of the children shoves him back, also punches him in the nose. I calmly continued to ask him to leash his dogs and get off school property. He continued to refuse. He said he was calling the police. I encouraged him to. He then called me a deadbeat teacher with a sad salary, and that I should find a real job. He then said a bunch of things about the types of people that send their kids to Head Start. Because he threatened to shoot someone, school goes into lockdown. While inside, with the windows covered and the lights off, the window covering fell down. I went to put it back up, and there he was, sitting in his car, staring directly at me through the window. We had to move every classroom on that side of the building to another room because of this. Police came about 10 minutes later, and were no help. They ended up leaving before him, which gave him the opportunity to come back, go to the front doors, and take multiple pictures of the school. He eventually left. We took his license plate, but are unable to figure out who he was. Honestly, wish I wasn't at work so I could have told him how I really felt. The entire time he felt like he was in the right, with 2 aggressive off-leash dogs in the faces of toddlers, threatening the parents with violence while on school property. There are reasons I am not being extremely specific about the details. I work with a vulnerable population whose privacy is protected by federal law. I'm not willing to say which city, police department, school, or even my role at the school. I would rather not come anywhere close to providing identifying information on a public forum. There is also a limit to what I can do about the situation without getting into hot water with my employer. I'd rather not toe the line of possibly being fired from a job I love. Administration is involved. Complaints have been made to high-ups at the police department. Hopefully this guy won't just get away with threatening this family at a school. I am certainly not sitting by and not letting this go. I am heated, so ready to give more of an update. I have learned the guy is pressing charges against the dad for assault. He needs surgery apparently from the punch to the face. Police continue to do nothing about his threats against this family on school grounds. The guy returned to the school this morning. Although he wasn't technically on school grounds, he was at the public park directly facing our classrooms. He was staring at us and taking pictures. He came at the same time he did Wednesday morning. My guess because he wants to find out who this dad is that did this to him. I immediately call the police. They show up 30 minutes later. Yes, 30 minutes. They immediately tell me he's not a threat. He's a 71-year-old man. Do you really find that threatening? He didn't actually have a gun on him, is a direct quote. They explain to me he is back because he is collecting his own evidence to use in this assault case and is attempting to find the person who hit him. Police are asking me to identify the dad. I refuse. They asked me what exactly I expected them to do. I said, I don't know, arrest him for threatening to shoot parents while reaching into his pocket at a school. Police tell me that is not actually illegal. Also, he is allowed to be at the park all he wants because it's a public park, so he can continue to come back and do what he's doing. They kept claiming they were not taking the guy's side, but they 100% were. They defended him. Didn't think he is or was a threat because he's a 71-year-old man, what could he possibly do? I had many choice words for these officers. In the end, they said they would write up a report about what I said. Not sure why that wasn't done on Wednesday when this originally happened. I have the police officer's card and a case number, and will be following up with that. I am limited on what else I can do without getting into trouble with my work. I am encouraging the parents to inform the news. She said she would, but to my knowledge, this hasn't happened yet. My supervisor is encouraging me to find out what I need to get a restraining order against him, as he was using threatening language and taking pictures of me. After some digging, I have his license plate, car make and model, full name and address of this lovely gentleman. We also may have found his Facebook page. I also got a picture of him, although it's from far away, because he started leaving once he saw me calling the cops. Forgot to include in my update above. When the police told me threatening to shoot people at a school is not a crime, I said, "Isn't that considered menacing?" He said, "No. To be considered menacing, the person must be holding something in their hand." Quick Google, what is menacing? Menacing is a crime that involves intentionally placing someone in fear of immediate physical injury. It can be committed through words or actions. It can include threatening someone with a weapon, such as a knife or gun. It can also include approaching someone aggressively while threatening physical harm. Then, I did a $28 background check on this guy. Turns out he has quite an extensive criminal history, mostly traffic violations. But guess what? Charges of menacing. I'm sure to no one's surprise, almost all offenses were dismissed. Now I know why no one has patience for this sovereign citizen BS. Just had this happen at my workplace. I am a dispatcher/clerk at a tow company. A person came into the lobby and stated that he wanted equipment from his vehicle. First, he began an incomprehensible rant, stating that we had stolen his car in collusion with the police department. I finally interrupted him and said, "Okay, what kind of vehicle is it?" "It's not a vehicle, it's my personal private property." "I can't identify it as your property until I find it in my system. What kind of vehicle is it?" "It's my personal property and I demand to have access to it." "May I see your ID, please?" "No, I don't want my privacy violated." "Well, I'm not letting you in without ID." "I'm a man and I want my property. My family name has no contract with the state or with your business." This went around and around in this manner for several minutes. Finally, I said, "If you won't show me some ID, then you have no business here and you have to leave." "So you're refusing my lawful right to my property?" "I don't know that it's your property, because you haven't identified yourself. Under RCW 46.55.120, I am required to verify the ID of any person redeeming a vehicle or retrieving property." "I told you I am a man. My name is Mark. What's your name? I insist on knowing your name when I take this to the Supreme Court." "I am not required to give you my name. Now leave." After several iterations of this, after getting more and more frustrated, I called 911 to get this yahoo out of my lobby. He left the building but went out to his van. Just a few minutes later, an older white-haired woman came into the lobby. "Can I help you?" "Yes, I'm here to find my car. What's your name?" she asked. "Why do you need my name?" "Oh, I just want to know who I'm talking to." "What kind of vehicle are you looking for?" Toyota Sienna? And what's your name?" "Are you here to find a car or to interrogate me?" I looked her right in the eye and she got an expression that said busted and walked out the door. These people were still in the parking lot when the police arrived. I explained the situation to the officers and they went out to speak to him. He saw the officers walking towards him and immediately bugged out. Absolutely infuriating. Anyway, friends, that's going to do it for today. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate it. If you enjoyed, be sure to hit that like button. And also, if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel for more Reddit shenanigans like this. So I'm out of here. Take care, and I'll see you next time.